Think for a moment about how visceral music can be. It can horrify you. It can hold you in suspense. It can create a deep sense of mystery and anticipation. It can evoke deep contemplation and a sense of wonder. And it can touch your heart. So hey everybody, Christopher Wills here, and I've got a confession to make. I love harmony. No, not some girl named Harmony. I have a passion for chords, and I want to help you to create powerful progressions that will move your audience and help you to experience a new, creative, expressive freedom in your keyboard improvisations. So be sure to subscribe below so you won't miss anything, and let's get started.
Yeah, baby!
Are you ready for a change, or rather, some? The term changes is short for chord changes, referring to the pattern of chords in a harmonic progression. For example, among jazz musicians, you may hear the term rhythm changes. This refers to the chord pattern used in Gershwin's famous song, I Got Rhythm, from 1931.
I got rhythm, I got music.
Gotta love that grammar. For guitarists and keyboardists, chords may be indicated with pop symbols, as you would find on a lead sheet or chart in a so-called fake book or real book, which may include a piano accompaniment and guitar fretboard symbols. Chords may also be indicated with Roman numerals in a Roman numeral analysis.
A woman? No, Roman.
This system derives from 17th century Baroque figured bass practice. Let's have a quick refresher in case this subject may be a little rusty for you. In order to understand the Roman numeral system, let's look at the C major scale. We will number the degrees from 1 through 8, along with their corresponding solfege syllables.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti.
The tonic is the tonal center or keynote, which in this case is C. We call C the pitch class, that is, the letter name of the note. The 8th degree, which we can call high do with the superscript symbol, is the tonic at an interval of 1 octave higher. Next, let's stack a couple of pitches on top of the tonic degree. This 3-note chord is naturally called a triad. The bottom note is called the root, not the first. The middle note is called the third, and the top note is called the 5th. These numerical names describe their intervals above the tonic, that is, their vertical distances above the 1st degree. Roman numerals identify the roots of triads by corresponding to scale degrees. For example, an uppercase Roman numeral 1 indicates that the root of this triad is the 1st degree of the scale. The fact that the number is uppercase indicates that the quality of this triad is major. Thus, the chord is called the tonic triad. In the key of C, the pop symbol is simply the capital letter C. We can use the system to reveal all of the other triads, which we can construct in the key of C. The Nashville number system, abbreviated NNS, serves a similar purpose, but uses Arabic numerals to indicate the scale degree upon which a chord is based. Both the Roman numeral and the Nashville number system approaches are flexible to use, and that they are relative rather than absolute with respect to a particular key. For example, a Roman numeral analysis might be the same for two passages from different melodies in different keys, such as the progression 1, 5, 6, 4, which is a very, very common progression.
Let it go, can't hold it back anymore.
In this tutorial series, we will focus on pop symbols and Roman numeral analysis for the purpose of understanding how chords function, that is, the purposes that chords serve. Before we discuss the logic of chord progressions, let's quickly review all of the diatonic triads in both the keys of C major and C harmonic minor, what we call the parallel minor key, with all chords in root position, which means that the root is in the lowest voice, on a single treble staff. We already know that the one chord is major in quality, color-coded here in blue, and that its functional name is tonic triad. If you have a keyboard handy, pause the video and play along, breaking each chord from the bottom up. We also call breaking rolling or arpeggiating. The 2 chord is minor and called the supertonic triad. The 3 chord is also minor and called the mediant triad. The 4 chord is major and called subdominant triad. The 5 is also major and called dominant triad. The 6 is minor and called submediant triad. And finally, the 7 is diminished and called the leading tone triad. It's called diminished because of the diminished fifth between the root and the fifth, which is a half step smaller than a perfect fifth. This interval is also called the tritone. Next, let's move to the powerful dark side.
You only knew the power of the dark side.
And explore the triads derived from the C harmonic minor scale. We will need to use a raising accidental, that is, a natural, on the 7th degree to produce the leading tone in this mode. We will notice a greater variety of chord qualities in this mode than there was in major. The 1 chord is minor. The 2 chord is diminished. The 3 chord is augmented. This is so called because there is an augmented fifth between the root and the fifth. The 4 chord is minor. The 5 chord is major. The 6 chord is also major. And the 7 chord is diminished, just as it was in the parallel major mode. Let's concentrate on chord changes, beginning with the most basic, fundamental harmonic progression, 1-5-1, tonic to dominant and back to the tonic triad. This is a simple cycle of tension and relaxation, from rest to motion and back to rest. All of these chords are major triads, and all are in root position. These chords, along with the 4 chord, are called primary triads. These are the most basic chords which define a key, that is, its tonality or tonal center, such as C, and its modality, such as major, as opposed to minor. Think of the top note as the soprano voice, the middle as alto, and the bottom as tenor. Thus, we have a 3-voice texture. However, a 4-voice texture is a common standard in Western music, so we need to add the bass voice, resulting in SATB. We will need the grand staff, also called great staff, to distribute the pitches. Soprano and alto voices will be on the upper treble staff, and the tenor and bass voices on the lower bass staff. But each chord has only 3 voices, and there are only 3 chord factors, or members. What shall we do then with the bass? One of the pitch classes needs to be doubled at the octave. It is standard practice to double the roots of these chords, so we will give the root to the bass an octave below the tenor. Thus, we now have 2 C's in the tonic chord and 2 G's in the dominant chord. The C's and G's are the most stable notes in the key. The term voicing refers to the vertical arrangement of chord tones, that is, their spacing, whether compact or spread out. We can write this simple progression in closed voicing, which is also called closed position or closed structure, or we can write it in open voicing. Now, closed means that the harmonic interval between the soprano and the tenor is an octave or less. Thus, the upper three voices are relatively vertically compact. However, this definition doesn't affect the distance between tenor and bass, which can be as wide as a 12th, that is an octave and a fifth combined. This sets the bass voice apart as a harmonic foundation with its own registral sonic space, or tonal territory if you want to call it that. Open voicing means that the interval between the soprano and the tenor is more than an octave, resulting in a wider vertical spacing. Let's give the third to the tenor dropped down an octave and give the root to the alto. Notice how each voice leaps up and down. Every voice is jumping like crazy. All are moving in the same direction by the same interval. There is no distinction between the voices in terms of melodic motion, no independence of melodic shape or curvature. This is called parallel motion. As a long-established standard in the practice of part writing, we want to avoid mere shadowing, in which all four voices move in the same direction by the same interval as they move melodically in time from left to right, on what we call the horizontal axis in music notation, which is the essence of melody. Rather, we want some independence of curvature in the so-called warp and weft of this fabric being woven together, with a mixture of stepping, skipping, and leaping. Also, we want to employ more stepping, what we call stepwise or conjunct motion, than skipping and leaping, what we call disjunct motion. Most great melodies lend themselves to singing and are thus more conjunct than disjunct, but a well-placed skip or leap is indeed a lovely thing, and if we do write a leap, we should consider following it with steps in the opposite direction, a kind of horizontal contrary motion. As we learn how to construct chords vertically on the vertical axis, the essence of harmony, we should also learn how to connect them horizontally. This technique of construction and connection is called voice leading. Our current progression example violates many rules of part writing, which we will now correct. Let's set up a golden rule of voice leading. Allow each voice to move melodically by step, if possible, from one chord tone to the next as we move from left to right. Take a look at the 1-5-1 progression we previously discussed. Focus on the soprano voice for a moment. In the tonic triad, the chord factor it is sounding is the fifth, that is pitch class G. The dominant triad that follows requires two roots. Why not allow the soprano to repeat the G instead of leap up? Let's move the D down to G. We call this rearticulated note a common tone. Thus, we can establish a second golden rule. Retain any possible common tone between adjacent chords in a progression. Next, focus on the alto voice. In the tonic triad, the chord factor it is sounding is the third, which is pitch class E. The dominant triad that follows requires a D. Why not give this note to the alto, which can approach it by whole step? This reflects the first golden rule. Lastly, focus on the tenor voice. In the tonic triad, the chord factor it is sounding is the root, that is pitch class C, middle C in fact. The dominant triad that follows requires a B. Why not give this note to the tenor, which can approach it by half step? This B is the leading tone, a very unstable, melodically active tendency tone, which must resolve up by half step to the tonic. Indeed, this will happen. We will not change the bass, because to do so would change the design of the progression. It would invert the chords, which we will not do just yet. Last point. There are many parallels between music and language. A cadence in music is akin to punctuation in grammar. It is the immediate goal of the phrase, a point of rest which can be conclusive or inconclusive. After a cadence, the singer breathes and begins the next phrase. This is usually made clear by a rest occurring after the final chord, or by the final chord being relatively longer in rhythmic duration, which typically occurs in the fourth measure of a 4-bar phrase. A half cadence is a musical question mark, leaving the listener hanging, waiting for an answer, and is thus inconclusive. An authentic cadence is a musical period, leaving the listener feeling a sense of completion and resolution, and is thus conclusive. The most conclusive authentic cadence is called perfect authentic, meaning that the dominant and tonic chords which end the phrase are in root position, and the soprano voice sounds the tonic degree at the final tonic chord. With the tonic degree do in the outer voices, that is soprano and bass, the most orally discernible voices, the cadence possesses a feeling of stability, finality, and closure, and is like a musical exclamation mark. However, if the ending chords are dominant to tonic with either chord inverted, or if the soprano does not sound the tonic degree, the resulting cadence is imperfect authentic, meaning conclusive but not as conclusive as the perfect authentic. In this example of a perfect authentic cadence, the soprano moves from tonic to leading tone and back to tonic. In solfege, do, ti, do. We can re-articulate the common tone between adjacent chords, or tie the rhythms together, or combine their rhythmic duration into a whole note as we've done here. Also note that in the bass voice, more often than not, the dominant degree is placed below the tonic rather than above. Congratulations! You've conquered the basics of chord theory, but there is so much more. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to this channel. See you next time!